we just kicking it. Yeah, we kicking it. When we come to play, yeah, we winning it. We are here to stay, bringing all grit. We so sick with it, we just kicking it.
What is up, everybody? I hope everyone is doing well. Just wanted to give you guys your next episode or whatever these are. Don't know. I guess, yeah, they just go with the conversation with CJ. So, which, sorry that it hasn't been more consistent for you guys. As you guys saw in like one of the last videos, I was transitioning from Best Buy to a new job, and I've started the new job. So that's kind of where my focus has been. That's why I'm just super nice. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I'm a banker now. So to go from working in a tech store to being a banker is kind of interesting. It's still customer service based. So still asking those questions and all that fun jazz. I do have a video kind of talking about my first week lined up, planned, and all that fun jazz. So be on the lookout for that. But this video is something that I'm kind of like been tugging on for a while. And it's going to be like a multi-part kind of thing. So, so I guess I kind of kick it off. It kind of talks about mental health and just purpose. So I guess I never really told you guys what my purpose was for this. So this little 4-part, 5-part, whatever it's going to be, it's going to kind of break down that for you. So, kind of talk about myself and what it's like and what the purpose is. So ever since I can remember when I was a kid, I always like to talk and I like to help people. So if someone's sad, I feel like even if I don't really know the situation fully, somehow I can make someone feel better. And I never knew what that was. I just thought it was like something I was good at. So then it made it to where, oh, I can do this, cool. So now it took me to being good at jobs, hence how I ended at a bank. You know what I mean? Active listening and just, being good with words. But I never knew, what that was. So as I got older, I kind of got better at it. So I ended up becoming like that friend that people went to for advice. Someone needed like prayer, or like someone was just going through something. They'd be like, oh, CJ, or hey, Clarence, I need this. Or I'm like, all right, cool. But I never really knew the magnitude of, I would say, like my words until about 8 years ago, I want to say. So for those of you who know me but don't know this part of my story, I had a brother that was unalived by someone. It was, like I said, it was years ago, about like 8 years ago. It's easier for me now to talk about it than it was 8 years ago. So, but yeah, so then this kind of goes back to that mental health thing. So I always knew that something was like up here, not all the way clicking. Even as a young age, like just the stuff I would think, be like, this ain't normal. But when he got unalived, that's when up here really just took like a turn for the worst. And I went to like a real deep, dark depression and real dark places. But one of the ways that I guess I kind of got out of said dark place was kind of talking about it and talking about like my emotions and stuff like that. And it wasn't by choice. Like, it wasn't like I'm gonna do this and it's gonna help people. No, it was, I was leading this youth group, and the guy running it was like, you should tell your testimony. And I'm like 18, 19, whatever the age, not a full adult. And I'm like, bro, I don't know what that is. Like, sir, I'm homeless. Like, I just moved back to my mom's house. I have a kid that I kind of see, and that's a whole nother story. Like, my brother just died. Like, I don't know, bro. Like, it's a sad story, don't you think? So him and I and some other people, we sit down and we kind of just go through the story. And it tied back into a Bible verse. So I was like, all right, whatever, I guess. And so I do the testimony. Mind you, again, brother just died. So I'm over here mid-story, and I get to that point, and I'm just bawling my eyes out. Because, again, someone who's my best friend, my big brother, just, got unalived. So I'm telling my story, and at the time I don't realize it. Every single student is silent, and they're listening, like really listening. Like, as like someone who does youth stuff, when kids aren't really listening, especially teenagers, bruh. So the fact that I had like every teenager's attention was, something to, I didn't realize at the time. So I do that, and I go through, and again, I cry like maybe like another time, and someone's hugging me, and then so I'm standing there talking, and this young lady, she taps me on my shoulder, and she's like, hey, this guy's crying. And I was like, oh? So she pulls me, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, what's going on? And he's just like bawling. And the girl was like, when you start talking about your brother, he started crying because his brother passed. And I was like, oh. So I immediately put my arm around him, and I just started praying for him. And I don't know how to pray for people like that for real at the time. So I was struggling. Normally I struggle praying, but that was probably the best prayer I've ever had in my life for someone else. Just because it was like that heart to heart, like knowing what that's like moment. And so when I got done praying, he stood up, I stood up, and I just gave him like a giant hug. And he didn't let me go for a hot minute. And that part sucked. Like, it didn't suck, but it sucked, if that makes sense. So, fast forward all these years later, like, I've done my testimony in front of people. I've done it at churches, like my church, other churches, events. And I've always wondered, like, again, to take me back to being a kid, like knowing I'm good with with my words. Now it's like having the stories behind it. And it's ironic enough, that's kind of why I started this podcast, is because, one, it gives a voice to the voiceless. So like I'll have people in my car or be sitting down somewhere, and like being able to give someone that chance to tell their story, because people don't get their chance a lot. But kind of, if you remember earlier, I said I struggled with what my next like long but next video would be. And so last Saturday I was at church. I do sound at my church every other week or whatever the tech director needs. And we had a guest pastor preaching, coach, oh my Lord, Pastor Ray. He's from Muskegon. And I don't know, like, when we have a guest, like, I don't really know what they're going to preach on. So he preached on change and purpose. And I kind of spit my ideas to people like, hey, this is what I'm kind of thinking for like an episode or stuff like that. Tell me why this man's sermon was literally kind of what I was going to talk about, which is purpose. The older I get, the more I realize I think the big part of my purpose is to be a storyteller for either myself or someone who feels like they don't have a story to tell. And that is why I made this podcast. That is why 4 years ago, during the pandemic, I sat in my mom's living room, and I don't remember if podcasts were like big 4 years ago, honestly. But I just remember like thinking, I want to be able to tell stories. And I created a podcast, and it kind of gave me a purpose to not be lackadaisical and be lazy. Now, yes, this is my purpose, but I'm still human, and I got lazy, and I just stopped doing stuff. Like, there's an episode that I have to post that's from 4 years ago. It has to be edited and all, which will be posted. Yeah. But now I'm just like, I can't afford that. Like, if this is my dream, why am I being the one that's not holding up my end of the bargain? And for me personally, I can't tell someone else to live their dream if I'm not living mine. So that's why consistently you guys will be getting posts and videos, whether it's snack reviews, whether it's just conversations in my car, whether it's long 45-minute episodes with guests, with Brandon, if it's just me just having talking points and giving you my perspective on stuff. It's not fair to you guys, the people that follow, the people who believe in me. They're like, you need to get this out, and I'm just like, yeah, and I never do. That's not fair to you guys, and it's also not fair to my dream. So my goal is to post at least 2 forms of content a month. Now you're probably like, that's not a lot. I know that. Again, I just started a new job. Like, I have stuff going on. So like, give me some grace, people. But yes, you'll be getting at the minimum 2 forms of content. It'd be nice to do it every week. It'd be nice, but schedules, life don't work that way. So, but I do, hopefully if I can find it, want to leave you with a little nugget. So I was watching TikTok a couple of days ago, and this guy was covering the song, and it spoke to me.
Silence the noise in my mind, Lord. Silence the noise in my mind, 'cause I want to hear you. Oh, I want to hear you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart, 'cause I want to see you. Oh, I want to see you. See you high and
And then, literally, same morning as I'm getting ready for work, on Instagram. And those of you who don't know, I follow like a lot of podcasters and motivational speakers. My favorite, his name is Inky Johnson. Look him up. Story is incredible. He had a post.
Right? It's like certain cats that quote scripture than other cats that live it. It's different when you live it. It's different when you live that Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope in the future. It's different. When you live that Romans 8:28, when it says, and we know that all things work to the good of those who love the Lord, who are called according to his will and his purpose. It's different when you live it. It's different when you live that James chapter 1, when it says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kind, because the testing of your faith goes on to produce perseverance, and perseverance must finish its race so that you may be complete and lacking nothing. That's good book.
And it just spoke to me again, and I was like, man. And then it immediately made me hop in my Bible app because of the verse he said. So I want to leave you with this verse. It's James 1, verses 2 through 5. Dear brothers and sisters, if you hear the ambulance in the background, my bad. I'm outside at work. Yeah. The goal is to have a studio, guys. I'm working on it. But, dear brothers and sisters, when trouble of any kind comes your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete. Needing nothing, you will have wisdom. Ask our generous God, and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. So, that is it. Have a wonderful day, guys.